Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to another replay review. This one is going to be for friend of the show, active Discord person, constant troll, MiniNinja, and he's going to be playing Warlock. I think we'll go through just a little bit of the draft. I suppose we'll skip around a little. How about that? And since this is an old replay review, it's going to be annoying and we can't click on heroes, so we're going to have to use the keyboard for that. So forgive me if I'm a little clunky. Alright, yeah, let's just skip phase by phase. How about that? Pop it to 8 times. Oh boy, we're at 16 times. Alright, let's see. Alright, I'm just gonna say... Alright, so, first phase. Let's see, draft-wise. Boy, it's talking dumb fast. Alright. Okay, so, first phase. This is a Captain's Mode game. So, and this is ballpark, what, like high 2Ks, if I recall correctly? It's somewhere in that area, like high 2K, low 3K. So, Slark Invoker, Omni Knight, Spectre bans. So, uncommon bans in like the grand scheme of things, but solid bans if you are just concerned about specific heroes. I think that's probably the reason. That's almost always the reason why people ban Slark first phase, is just we don't want to play against it. It's annoying, which is, yeah, that's perfectly rational. Omni Knight's similar. Like Omni Knight, if something first phase is an Omni Knight, you can deal with it, but it is like you have to change your draft drastically to do so. And if it doesn't go well, then you're just going to be annoyed to death because, you know, they're healed, they're repelled, etc. Spectre's similar. I don't particularly know why you would ban a Spectre first phase, but again, like Spectre or Invoker, you can just say, like, hey, they're annoying, so of course you ban them. Pick-wise, SD Luna, perfect. I mean, it's hard to think of a better opener than SD Luna, honestly. Like, if you can get either or both of these heroes, it's... you know, you're set for life. Other like good openers would be something like Slardar, like Slardar SD or Slardar +1, and then like 3-4 pick like Lifestealer or something like that. But yeah, Witch Doctor Centaur is also a very good opener, I'll say. I mean, obviously, Witch Doctor and Centaur are not super high priority heroes, so it's not like you're getting something like Luna SD, but it's a lot less committal. Like, you can pick Witch Doctor, Centaur, and have a lot of options, basically, whereas if you pick Luna SD, it's pretty clear the draft you're running. Granted, you actually can do a lot of things with Luna, even though the tried and true thing is just, okay, we're going to 5-man at 20 minutes with HOD, Dragonlance, and then push down their base. But it's very viable to run into the late game because Luna is like a killer in late game. So both these openings are solid. I like both of them. I would say obviously I advantage the SD Luna draft, but I don't think it's like I think both are solid. I don't think there's any mistakes made, so to speak. All right, Jug ban, Morphling ban, Medusa ban. So they don't want to deal with magic damage. I mean, with having to what's the word? Burn mana. Alright, let's see, 8 times, Warlock, Necrophos picks. Alright, Magnus, and Ember Spirit, okay, alright, so, let's talk about this now a little bit. Maybe this is what I'll do for all the replay reviews there in Captain's Mode. This seems like a good idea. Alright, so, bans from the Dire, Juggernaut and Weaver. And bans in the Radiant, Morphling, Medusa. So we got to think, what do these things telegraph? So, or telegraph is probably the wrong word, but what do they show? So the Radiant is clearly worried. They're clearly not going to be picking something like an AM or something that can build diffusals. So no AMs, no PLs, no X invokers, I suppose. And so they clearly don't want to have to deal with that mechanic of having a tanky hero that you need to burn mana to deal with. And then, of course, as we see their picks go, it's clear why they did that, right? Like, Necrophos does not burn mana efficiently. Magnus does not burn mana efficiently. They're trying to, you know, shock and awe, kill a whole bunch of things, and then maybe kill the cores later once all the supports and squishy cores are dead. That's a very... I think it's good to know what you don't want to play against just as valuable as it is to know what you want to play. So, you know, if you're picking, let's say they pick their 5 comfort heroes and they're all good, if they are uncomfortable playing against Medusa, let's say, that's a super valuable thing to know in draft. To just be like, hey, there's no obvious bans here, so let's just ban the heroes we don't want to play against, and that our draft is not going to do well against. All right, so conversely for the Dire, their bans... I mean, Weaver would be a real problem for SD Warlock as a support duo, right? So if we think SD Warlock, it gives a lot to a team fight, especially with the Luna, in that it's going to deal a ton of damage to a lot of people with Fatal Bonds. It gives you team fight, and it gives you even more push with Balrog. And the slow is actually really nice from Upheaval when you have a Luna on your team, because she's fast and she's just going to be able to get all the more glaives out, basically, if everybody's slowed. And SD can get more stacks of his Shadow Poison on. It's solid. Warlock SD is a good duo as long as you have CC from your off lane and your mid. And when they pick Ember Spirit, they get the CC from Chains or Bolus, right? No, it's just Chains. Although didn't they used to be Bolus? So they clearly don't want to play into Warlock. I mean, excuse me, a Weaver. And so that was a really solid ban. I like that a lot. Juggernaut ban. I mean, Juggernaut is picked against Luna sometimes. I wouldn't say it's super common. He's a good mid against Ember Spirit. There's that. It's not like a tremendously winning matchup for the Jug, but if he outplays you, it can be an issue. And Jug's pretty decent against Warlock, I suppose. I mean, that may have just been a we don't want to play against this ban, but yeah, it's fine. I don't know. I'm not super concerned about that ban. All right, so let's go back to 8 times. See what things are going down. Broodmother ban, that's safe. That would be annoying to play against. Alright, so let's talk about this because I think the screen's going to go away when they pick this hero. Then we'll talk about that last. So, Warlock offlane, very solid. It's been nerfed a lot recently, but it's still quite good. This may actually have been like a mini patch ago when he was even better. But either way, Warlock is still a solid pick. I mean, excuse me, Underlord is still a solid pick. And if this Radiant team is going to go in for some kind of team fighty push strat, Underlord's very good at dealing with that, in that he can just delay, and he has a lot of AoE control, which is especially nice against heroes like Witch Doctor that need to stand still and channel, or heroes like Centaur where they're going to be moving around so quickly and running through fights and all that. You want to have AoE CC, kind of like a Disruptor Net or a Underlord Pit, where it doesn't matter how fast you're moving, you're going to get CC'd. So that's a solid pick, I think. Could also just have been a comfort pick, but I think it works well with all this. I think if we look holistically at the Dire's draft, regardless of bans or regardless of the Radiant team, we have a clear theme of AoE damage, which is going to be amplified by Fatal Bonds, and you have a lot of CC from your off lane and your mid, and even like Luna beams are a not insignificant amount of CC when it comes to breaking channels and stuff like that. And that's all to compensate for this support duo, which is strong in the grand scheme of things, but their weak point is that they both lack firm CC. So I like this draft all in all. And Broodmother ban coming out from the Radiant makes a lot of sense as well. I mean, that's a pretty solid ban. If you don't know what to ban, it never hurts to ban one of those heroes that's just like, boy, this is just going to be the most annoying thing in the world. Is this going to be like a mid Necrophos and a safe lane mag, or vice versa? Okay, let's see what they're going to pick. I wonder if we'll be able to pause it after they pick, or if it'll just go into the... Normally it just goes into the other screen immediately, but that's okay. Either way. Oh, these seems to have names. Alright, Ursa. Okay, so Ursa's the last pick. Ursa versus Ember Spirit mid is a great matchup for Ursa if they end up playing that. If they play it safe lane, Ursa's pretty good against Underlord too. And so I like the Ursa. I think he's going to have a lot of issues if this game goes... As the game continues and Luna becomes more evasive in not only the butterfly, which she will eventually build, one must assume, but just the... Ursa's doesn't deal well with a ton of targets, right? And Luna is going to have a lot of illusions, right? She's going to have 2 Manta illusions. She's going to have Shadow Demon illusions popping off all the time. And Ursa, he's going to win the matchup against Ember Spirit, almost certainly, if that is the matchup, to be fair. But in the grand scheme of things, if Ember Spirit has a Linken's, he's going to have some problems getting on the Ember Spirit. All that being said, though, I think Ursa's a fine pick here, but they're a bit more tempo than the Dire team, right? MiniNinja's team is more well-rounded, I'd say, and they have more options, whereas the Radiant team is a bit more limited in the fact that they have to kind of play the game in a way that they don't make mistakes and then they just steamroll you. And they also have the huge advantage of having 4 very tanky heroes and a Witch Doctor which heals. and that is a big value in and of itself, right? If Warlock and Shadow Demon get behind, they can just get nuked down, and they can just get like instantly killed by an Ursa, or Blink, Dagon, Necrophos ulted, stuff like that. So that is a concern to have if you are this Dire team. But the Radiant team, you just have to fend them off for long enough to get Luna and Ember Spirit a couple items, and then you'll be solid. Also, Ursa's BKB timing is going to be important. They got to make a lot of wins out of the 10-second and such BKBs. Let's actually change these settings real quick. This is what I wanted to do. Alright, okay. And yeah, we can't click on heroes. Yeah, okay, that's too bad. Alright, so let's talk about starting items. Let's see, 5, 6. Alright, Ember Spirit, this is a good solid start. Normally, what you'd do is you'd get your, what's called, Fairy Fire in your branch, and then you'd ferry out your healing salve. But all things considered, this is fine. Underlord, Mango, Stout, Double Tango, that's okay. I prefer to get Tango Salve, because then you can get right back in if you get low, compared to waiting the whole time. Warlock, basic opening. I guess he's going to get a Bassi out of this. They're going to smoke for this. This is interesting. I mean, they have the advantage, obviously, because there's only 2 people here. But A, they're spreading out, which is not something you generally want to do. And B, if it doesn't go perfectly, it's going to go horribly, if that makes sense. And they're going in uphill directions here. Like, realistically, they should have gone in on here. That would have been the better play. To get back to this, Shadow Demon, also very good basic starting items. Their smoke is popped. Necrophos is not paying attention. What is Ember Spirit? Okay, so this whole thing just went horribly. It was just a complete waste of mana. Literally nothing good happened. So what you want to do whenever you're smoking at level 1 is you want to hit people at their weak points, right? Or surprise them at the very least. And like, yeah, sure, that Necros wasn't paying attention, but the right play here would have been to smoke, and I mean, in my opinion, it would have smoked here and killed these 2, because that's more feasible, right? 2 is better than 3. But the other play, if you were going to smoke to this area, is to go through this area and then backstab them here, and then they're forced to either run onto your side of the map or run at your tower, in which case they kind of have to play this like area where it's very finicky, I suppose, so to speak. So that's that. Let's finish Wraithband, Tango. That's an okay opener from Luna. It's a little unnecessary. Generally, like, you want to have the Ring of Protection to get the Bassi early and push the lane, or at least get mana regen so that you can spam Lucent Beams. But that being said, I mean, Wraithband, this is not bad by any means. It's just a little less than optimal. All right, so that's everybody, right? Okay. And we're not going to focus so much on the enemy team, right? Because, you know, we kind of know what's going to happen with them. It is important to notice whenever you're playing the safe lane, as MiniNinja is, what you want to do is you want to scout for who has more regen and who has less regen. So if we look to Centaur, he has a magic stick and 3 tangos. If we look to Necrophos, he has 3 tangos and 2 branches, which equates to 5 tangos if he commits, but realistically he's just going to build a magic wand. So on that note, these guys are pretty equal. But let's say in an alternate situation, this Necrophos had brought, he said, 1 set of tangos, and Centaur had brought a set of tangos and a salve and a mango, which would not be uncommon for a Centaur. Then you'd want to say, okay, there's no point in harassing Centaur this early. We have to either kill him or we have to harass the Necrophos, right? Okay, so this Fatal Bonds does not go great because they're both just going to run back. Unfortunately, that's a bit suboptimal, so to speak. Let's look towards this mid matchup. So, Ember Spirit's used 1 tango already. This Magnus has 1 tango left, Quell, Stout. So, Magnus should do okay in this matchup. I think in an ideal world for the Radiant team, what they would have done is they would have, oh boy, offlane's going well, what they would have done is they would have paired Ursa mid, and then, you know, do the typical Ursa versus melee hero matchup. That being said, Mag is going to freeform here, but as the game scales, he may have some issues if he does not get a really good skewer in when Ember Spirit tries to kill him. That can be definitely a way for Ember Spirit to lose this lane, though. That's for certain. If he makes like 1 bad play, gets skewered into tower before 6, or if he uses all his remnants and then can't leave after 6, that's a very easy way for this Magnus to just win this lane with the kill. So that should be just trading farm. Let's see. Luna. Alright, so what is her item progression? That's Shadow Demon. Luna. Okay, so she finished Aki. It's not on right now. They're not managing their equilibrium very well. I'll point that out. This is, when you're playing against a dual lane, what you want to do is you want to either manage it really well, or you want to just be creating havoc and then push their tower super early, something like that. But they're kind of playing it traditionally, but they're unable to zone properly, right? So traditionally what you do is you either do the thing where the carry manipulates aggro well and keeps the creeps around this area, or what you do is you let him or her push and pull and do all that business, but then you make pulls with your supports from either the hard camp or the small camp, which is stacked. Or, I mean, this small camp to the hard camp. So when we look towards levels, this Centaur is level 2, almost level 3, and this Necrophos is almost level 3 as well, whereas our Warlock has just hit 3, and he's getting aggressed on, but nothing's going to come of this. That was just a huge waste of mana from the Radiant. And our Shadow Demon is also level 3. So things are pretty much equal, but we're splitting XP, and Luna could, in an alternate way of playing this lane, be like level 5, probably. It's unfortunate with that stun, or rather with that amp. Is Luna going to die here? No, she's fine. MiniNinja, what's your skill build right now, my boy? He's, okay, he got first blood, that's fine, but they don't really have any follow-up for this, so just give me a 1-for-1. But it's a fine trade. They have committed an entire hero to rotate to this lane. That being said, Luna and SD are quite low, which is less than unfortunate. I think the core issue there was we just didn't decide exactly which hero to go on. And the issue comes in, oh god, they're both gonna die here. Wow, this is just a feed. Yeah, that was abysmal. That's exactly what you don't want to happen. So, yeah, I mean, the core issue there, right, is you just have to realize what your kill potential is. Actually, this is a good tip just for any lane, just in general. Whenever you are playing a game, or even just a lane as a microcosm of a game, you have to realize what your win conditions are and what your losing conditions are, basically. So the Dire team, they have a good static lane if they just farm, and they have really good defense. If Shadow Demon stays a little bit far back, this Radiant team is going to have a ton of trouble trying to kill anybody. If, like, they go into Luna, SD's just going to disrupt him. Luna has some kind of visual glitch there. But if they try to aggress, they either have to have a rotation, or get really lucky, or kind of just win a close fight, which then means they're low, and then when the Radiant TPs their heroes back, they're going to kill them. Kind of like what the Witch Doctor just did. He came back to lane, and they immediately killed. Granted, that was because of the aggression of the Dire, but that was kind of them, oh boy, making a bad assumption about their power, basically. So yeah, anyway, so the win condition basically for the Dire for this lane is for you guys to just static farm, and the Radiant team, they don't have a good way to go on you that isn't telegraphed, right? It's very obvious if Centaur wants to go on you because he's going to be walking forward to stomp, or Witch Doctor is going to be walking up to throw a cast because that's not a super long range, and it's a short stun, so Centaur still has to be walking towards you, and so that's basically your win condition. The Radiant's win condition is to have you guys go on them, and then you turn it around and you turn it around. What he could have done is he could have fatal bonds these three, and then they could have just killed these two. He's level 3. I mean, they're causing a lot of disruption, and this is like very high commitment. That being said, like, yeah, the offlaner is getting a lot, but so is the Ursa. He's still, laning perfectly fine. Honestly, Ursa should be winning this lane, which it's good that he isn't, I suppose, in the sense that, oh, rotation here. This could go horribly because he has no mana to do anything. Ember Spirit, he chains, but what is really going to come of this? They're going to kill Warlock, but then Ursa just TPs in. He's going to get at least 2 kills here. Maybe only 1, actually. Does he have phase boots yet? Boy, clicking on heroes would be nice. He might dive a little far for this. Oh boy, never mind. He'll get, yeah, so 2 kills, like I said. And again, they're going to try to do something here, but okay, they're good. Underlord came. That's good. A little bit of overcommitment, basically, from the Radiant team, and that ends up being a 2 for 2. Which is fine. We caused a lot of rotations from both sides. We did leave Magnus alone during that, and just fundamentally, as a game mechanic, right, if you commit 4 people to kill 2 people, that's better than the other team committing 5 people to kill 2 people, right, because that means you have one person who's solo XP, solo farming a lane, or the jungle, or whatever. Alright. Really, whenever we do these replay reviews, it is just super important to realize, like, the laning phase is it's the foundation of the game, which sounds like a really obvious thing to say, but fundamentally, the laning phase is the thing that people mess up the most and is so important. And it is, like, the fabric that the game is built off of. And, yeah, obviously you can win games after losing the laning phase, but the laning phase is I would say in price maybe 75% of games or so, laning phase is like the thing that decides the game. Because, it doesn't matter how good your mid game is if your laning phase is lost and you're 6,000 gold behind in the first 12 minutes. Alright, they're aggressing, but the problem here is they're aggressing towards a shrine, and also they're aggressing into a tower. Magnus is coming. He does not have a Blink Dagger yet, which is very fortunate for the Radiant team. Which just means that was great. That was just a ton of commitment for a whole lot of nothing. And maybe they're going to try to take this tower, but they're pretty easy to fend off with like a Warlock and a... although Warlock's bottom right now, obviously he's trying to farm maybe a Midas, let's say. Yeah, Midas. But this is hard to push into for the Radiant, or at least it should be. Oh boy, a really nice RP. Now he's going to skewer them into his team. This is perfectly played, other than, obviously, the Pit of Malice is annoying, but obviously that's not a huge deal. Centaur ult. Man, Centaur Ursa is a pretty sick combo. I've never played that before, but boy, that sounds cool. I kind of want to write that down and do it for Theory Crafting Thursday. Let's do that. You guys can... 1 second. Uno momento. Centaur... My pen is dying. There we go. Okay. Centaur Ursa, that's really cool. I like it a lot. And also, like, you did that, you could, like, delay Blink. Or you could go, yeah, I mean, you could, like, delay Blink and just go, like, I don't know, get, like, HOD to start, or, like, a Mask of Madness right away. Or even just, like, go Vanguard Basher, something like that. Like, you could just go defensive. Oh, man, this is cool. Maybe we'll do this. A nice skewer coming out from the... Magnus. That being said, let's see. We have a Luna ult coming out. She will die. Oh my god. Okay, so I think we already know here what the problem is. The problem is this Witch Doctor that just casted freely for like 8 minutes. It is a 2 for 2 currently. The Radiant team, let's see. Are they going to overcommit for this? I mean, right now they're gaining because this Ursa is just free farming bottom and taking the tower. All that being said, yeah, this Necrophos will die. So that's something. So, I mean, this is kind of something that we'll see in virtually every game, is that the Radiant team, they had a good minute and a half or whatever of like a fight, a push, a fight, but then they just overplayed their hand, which is a phrase I've been using a little too much recently, I think, but it's just such a good phrase. Let's talk a little bit about Luna's skill build. It's perfect. So, let's talk more about itemization. Also good. This is what you want to do, basically. You want to have 1 point in glaives once you're not worried about equilibrium anymore. Her Aki should be on at this point, in my opinion, because you're not worried about managing equilibrium. But oh boy, okay, she's going to get got. Yeah, she's dead. That's unfortunate. Let's talk about the Radiant wards versus the Dire wards. So this ward is perfect because of the way that this game has been going. In that they... Oh. Okay, so an RP comes out, and the Radiant team are just decimating. Wrong term, wrong way to use it. A good usage of Shrine. Will he get out? He should be fine. Yeah, he could just Remnant anyway. Okay, so that ends up being a 1 for 1. Lots of commitment from both teams. It's basically just a wash, but the only reason it's a wash is that the Radiant team has this ward that the Dire have not dewarded. Okay. He's not going to die from that. And Magnus will die. Okay. Probably what you would have wanted to do, strategically speaking, if you're TPing in here, is that you initiate the fight with your teammates, and then you TP to this, and then you kind of pigeonhole the people that are running out. Like we saw Ursa and Witch Doctor. I think Witch Doctor TP'd, actually. He was dead. Witch Doctor, excuse me. Ursa and Necrophos ran this way, and Magnus ran downwards this way. And they got the Magnus, but they didn't get the two people. The alternative would have been if, let's say, Ember Spirit had TP'd here, they'd initiated over here, then, you know, you kind of trap the rats in a cage, so to speak, and get them right here. Ember Spirit going for BOTs first. Personally, I don't like this. I prefer Veil and then BOTs. Hopefully he does Veil. I know in a recent replay review, actually wasn't a replay review, I was doing some coaching, and somebody still did the physical damage Ember. And I'm really not into physical damage Ember right now in like the get-go. I think physical damage Ember is okay, but you still have to go you still have to go magic damage at the start. Like when you play physical damage Ember, nowadays you still get a Veil, and then you probably still go like Veil, BOT, Blink. I think that sounds good to me. All right. So they're trying to siege now. Let's look at Shadow Demon's skill build. This is the core skill build for Luna SD. A lot of times, if you're running SD but you're not running Luna, what you'll run is a max Shadow Catcher build instead. A Luna ult's coming out here, which is perfect. A completely wasted Necrophos ult. A good Warlock ult as well, and a beautiful Ember Spirit play. The RP was cancelled. The issue would be this, but he's dead now. And really nice RP, but no follow-up. So this is perfect. This should be... I mean, it's 15 minutes, so it's only going to be like one tower. Yeah, they can't TP to get this quickly because they lost their tier 1 top. They could push tier 2, actually. But pushing tier 2, I feel like they're going to get some damage on it. But if they continue too far, this is a very throwable position, so to speak. Kind of like what we saw top lane, where they tried to push after this tier 1, they tried to push in. Granted, they didn't have a Balrog. But they had already used so many of their resources that they couldn't continue it. Granted, the Radiant team have also used Stampede. They don't have the Blink Dagger from Magnus yet, so they can't, you know, Blink Skewer, and they can't Blink RP, obviously, because that's on cooldown. So maybe this tower will just fall, and all the while they are farming MiniNinja still, who now has his Midas for a little bit. So that's perfect, right? That's the situation you want to be in. And the easy TP out. Nice play. Alright, I mean, they're going to deny this tower, but such is life. Can't click on it, otherwise I would. So things are going great for the Dire. Like, obviously it's not perfect, but I guess the way I would describe it is that their overall game plan is going well, even if they've had, like, some hiccups in the way, skirmish-wise. Like, they've lost a couple skirmishes here and there, but in the grand scheme of things, things are going okay. He is going Veil now, which is good. I will say, again, if we picture like these previous fights with the Veil, he shouldn't be attacking this. He should be attacking these. The Veil would have, I don't know, turned any fights, but it would have made the fights a lot quicker and easier. Whereas like the BOTs don't change that much drastically. Like he could have just TP'd to this tower. He didn't need to BOTs there. You know, that's nitpicking, but it's kind of thing where while we may not have noticed a huge difference in any of our recent fights, it may have in an alternate universe made a huge difference in one of the fight if, you know, one of these people dies 25% quicker. You know, then he doesn't kill your teammate, or then, you know, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so Ursa's not roshing yet. This is always a good thing if you are playing against an Ursa and he has not roshed by 20 minutes. That is like a big win, and they're rewarding this up, which is good. You got to know your timings for Ursa, which is hard if you're like me and you're not an Ursa player. You have to at least know the general idea of like, okay, well, it's 18 minutes. He most definitely has the capability to rosh, but like a good Ursa player can rosh at like 8 minutes or less with the right farm. So that's a good thing to keep track of. They're going to just trade towers here, which makes sense. The Radiant team pushes towers much faster than the Dire team, just by virtue of their team comps. That being said, they have to make the call to defend this. And if they don't defend this, then they'll trade, I suppose. But if they trade, they're going to have to take a fight where they could easily get backstabbed. Okay, so they're all popping in, but they're all going to get RP'd immediately. This went horribly. Like, that that literally could not have gone worse. That's like... That is actually, like, the most... Boy, who's playing the magnet? I mean, who's playing blue? Okay, my friend, I am sorry that this happened to you, and I really don't want to make fun of you that much, but oh my god, that was the worst play. That makes me think of, like, for instance, I think we've all made the incorrect play once or twice where we, let's see a Shadow Fiend killing our tower, and then you TP, and the Shadow Fiend ults on your TP and just instantly kills you. Okay, we have a... They should be using this shrine right here. MiniNinja, click the shrine. He did not click the shrine. They will kill everybody here, though, at least. So they lost a tier 3 for that, and a ton of gold, obviously, from that team fight where they got wiped. That being said, they are going to wipe them. Or not wipe them, but they'll get 4. So that's something. I mean, it's obviously less than ideal. Oh my god, I thought the mud golem was going to get it, and I was going to say, boy, that'd be like the most clutch mud golem ever. Clutch mud golem. Regardless, that was still a loss just based off of that Underlord play. Not to flame or anything, but that's like the... I think that's like the case in point for... like that... Here's the way you got to think about it. It's one of those plays that you make once, and it's horrible, and then you never make ever again. because you'll never forget it. That was good. Ember Spirit is being evasive here. This is a fight outside their base. Again, if we look towards it, they always have to be concerned with when you're fighting on the enemy side, you have to think like, okay, how many ways do they have to get to us? And how many heroes do they have up that could get to us, you know, etc., etc. Presumably this TP will go better than the last one. Oh my god, and they wasted RP. That's sick. I don't know what he thought RP was going to do there. He could have, let's see, did he have Skewer up? No, he didn't. You could always like blink skewer people out of the Underlord ult. That would actually be a pretty sick play. And this Magnus is going for the utility early, damage mid build basically, which I think you have to do now because of the change to his level 10 talent. Okay. So they still have not roached. Ember Spirit is very close to his Veil, but he does not quite have it. I cannot click. I actually cannot click on the courier. That's unfortunate. We'll look towards net worth. Okay, so net worth, we're pretty fine. Oh boy, Ember Spirit, he's kind of out and about. I mean, excuse me, Ursa is out and about. Nice stun coming out from the... Oh boy, Blue got cliffed. Can he TP? He should just TP to Shrine. Oh boy, he's dead. So, again, this is another case in point about a fight you don't want to take because they're too close to resources, right? This is, I feel like, this is something that's not totally trickled down. But, I mean, I know I was making this mistake all the time in the first couple months of 7.0 is just fighting by shrines or fighting and running into shrines. It's really easy to just be like, okay, well, we can kill him first. Or like, oh, we'll get him to waste shrine charge. But, man, shrines are good, turns out. And you'll lose a lot of fights just off of like, hey, we fought around a shrine. MiniNinja just getting gone on. That's just going to happen. I mean, this team is the kind of team that's just going to nuke you down immediately. And they're just going to run on you and then run right out. Blue with a good ult coming out from the Luna so far. Will they be able to parlay it into actual resources, though? That's the thing. SD is getting blocked by Luna. Luna's super fast, so you want to be careful about that. He's committing a lot here. Ursa has TP'd back to base. Centaur is low, but he's a Centaur, so he's still pretty tanky. They will kill Warlock. They do not have Necrophos ult, so they could maybe charge this down, but I don't know. Ursa's not here. They are running towards a shrine again. At least this time we escaped. Maybe we escaped. He could blink and RP him, but he's not running. That Veil came out. Veil's important. Also, he used the Veil, which is nice. Let's go back to MiniNinja, because this is his replay review. His farm is good, because he got that Midas, had a good timing. Excuse me. The overall game plan here is going fine. Obviously, they had that one big hiccup, which is really like the core issue of the game so far for them. But other than that, things are fine. Like, you really... Sometimes you just make a mistake and your game gets hard, so to speak. Like, to put it very simply. This Ursa's, like, their team is in their peak right now. Like, they have a whole ton of mid-game stuff. Alright, good. This is a good prioritization of the right kills. They just... Ursa is so hard to kill right now. They need to, especially with this brand new 10-second BKB. The game plan always has to be, when you're playing Dota, you have to... No, I shouldn't say always, but what you want to do is you want to take away... If there are important people to kill, and you can kill them quickly... Don't run these illusions in here, please. Okay, good. If there are important people to kill, and you can kill them quickly, do it. Right? Like, Necros is very important. He's a huge issue in these fights, especially considering he's healing his teammates, which makes them into further issues. Oh, a nice smoke play from the Radiant. This is going to be a big win. MiniNinja, wow, this is actually such a good play. Ninja should be escaping ASAP. He still gets the ult out. No fatal bonds on anybody. The Roche is at mid health, so they're not... Oh, okay, alright. And the wasted RP, that's a pretty big deal. Let's see. Anything else? Right now it's a 2-for-1. Ursa's still in the backlines. He could easily blink and BKB if they try to Roche again. They're quite low to be Roshing. Ursa, let's see. Is he going to make the play? He smoked again. Honestly, dude, just BKB. Oh my god, he's not going to BKB. He's going to waste his BKB now. Okay. The Dire got Roche and they got the Aegis. So that was just a huge waste from the Ursa. See, the Ursa, he tried to make the cool play, like the good play, but he didn't commit. Right? That's one of those moments where, you know, if you're going to do it, you got to do it. You can't, like, want to do it and then be like, I don't know, putz around. That's how you lose, basically. RP's not up. Hopefully they saw him miss that RP. So this makes it much easier for the Dire to just take towers. We know RP's not up, we know Stampede is not up, and obviously Ursa's dead for 20 seconds. And they have Aegis on Luna. They should be high grounding here, but they got distracted. MiniNinja will die. Is he going to buy out? He can't buy out. Actually, he could have Midas and bought out. That's unfortunate. Alright. I need to not lose my voice before Dotp stream team, which I'm recording this right before. Okay, so that was a fine little play by the team. Alright, let's pop up a little bit. 10 seconds, he's still DC'd. Alright. Not much has happened. Alright, so they kind of... That Witch Doctor kind of baited them basically to come back to base. What they should have done is they should have continued pushing. And they could have easily taken at least a good amount of health off the tier 3, if not the entire tier 3. And then gotten some damage on range racks or whatever. That was not an opportunity to take racks by any means. But with Luna Aegis, you really have to play forward, so to speak. You got to make the exceptional play, basically. Like, normally you would not do that, but it's an exception now because you have the Aegis. There's definitely way better words for that. Luna still has her Aki turned off too, which is the most tilting thing in the entire world. And like, yeah, they have they have Warlock with the Bassi, but the Warlock and the Luna are in very different positions oftentimes. Ursa, oh, he could have killed MiniNinja, but he didn't. This is a, just kidding, not a very dead guy. Radiant team played that very poorly. This is the kind of time where you need to get out. Okay, this is, again, just a bit of overcommitment from the Dire team. They should have left the second they saw that come out. And Balrog came out, but there's no real follow-up here. Like, Luna had ulted, yeah, but there's 5 people here, and Luna is very, very dead. And they don't have their Underlord, which is a huge bulk of their damage. Like, this is just bad. Ursa's just chasing people down, but he doesn't have a basher yet, does he? No, so they'll just get out. He's building an MKB, which is questionable. I mean, that's just, you know, if you are pushing and you see and again, the shrine's still up and active. If you are pushing and then you see TPs and there's more than one, you need to leave, especially if the enemy team has a bunch of team fight that they haven't used yet. And their orientation was off because they had people back here that were dead or gone. And honestly, that should have been the marker, like, hey, we need to leave. Because when you have your Underlord getting killed back here and you're over here, obviously the natural path for them to take their bodies is to go all the way up around on you and pincer you while they TP like one or two people here. So that was really problematic, so to speak. Ember Spirit trying to dodge stuff. Did he just try to do the TP thing? No, he didn't. Okay. Okay. This is fine, honestly. They could parlay this fight into something. No, the RP comes out to kill Luna, so Luna's very, very dead. This Ursa, his BKB is getting low. Do we have Shadow Demon ult? No, we don't have Disruption either. MiniNinja. No, he's just going to get blinked on by this Ursa. Yeah. He's very dead. And this is going to be a lane of Rax, I assume. Because their whole team is just dying. Oh boy, and he's dead for 70. That's a kick in the face. Or the teeth? I think that's how that phrase goes. Okay, Bolas come out on 2 heroes, fortunately, but they really can't defend this. Like, this Ember Spirit, he does not have like a battle for. He does have Maelstrom, actually. Maelstrom's nice, but it's not nice enough. Misusing steals a little bit. One lane of Rax is not the end of the world, especially when you have a Lune on your team, but it is obviously a big win for the Radiant team. If we look net worth-wise, they're quite a bit above. And they're just going to run. Centaur ult, good ability. Oh, this is a very ballsy play. Okay, Shadow Demon should have disrupted the Ember when he was getting gone on, and then they could have reinitiated probably. A Fatal Bond's coming out. It's a little... Oh my god, dude, this Centaur is such a player. Okay, that was a good ult. Only one person is Fatal Bonds, so it's not really doing its full potential. Our dire team is splitting up, which is obviously something that you don't necessarily want to happen. The classic issue is just you split up and then you have a team that has like Centaur Ursa, and they're just great at picking you apart. Shadow Demon did have to buy back for that. So again, if we look towards the net worth graph, the Radiant team is doing a bit better. I think the core issue here right now is just the whole team, but especially MiniNinja, since again this is his replay review, is kind of discombobulated, I suppose. What's happening is that they're taking these fights and they're a bit astray from one another, right? So like right now their all group is 4, which they shouldn't be against a Magnus. But in other fights what happens is like one person dies off to the side and then they don't get their ult off, and then, you know, if you're taking these fights pulled apart, the enemy team is gonna be fighting pulled apart, which is not conducive to your Fatal Bonds strat. This is good Fatal Bonds right here on 3. Overall they're just pushing this tower, that's fine. What the Underlord has been doing before, it's not up right now, but throwing the aggressive Rain of Fires in like choke points is super good. Like for instance, when they were pushing this tier 2 here, they were keeping Rain of Fire right here, which was perfect because Magnus, obviously, if he wants to blink RP them, is going to have to go through this area, or he's going to have to do some super inefficient thing where he like blinks over here and then blinks and then runs and then blinks. So it buys you a ton of time. That's a very good thing to be doing. And like when you're pushing high ground, for instance, if you put like a Pit of Malice over here and then a Rain of Fire over here or a Rain of Fire back here, that's going to impede them quite a bit. Even if it's not doing a ton of damage, it's making it a lot harder for them to execute their play. Let's see. Can we fight at the shrine? I don't think we can because they're gonna take it way too quickly. Man, Recipe's Shadow Poison, dude. That ability used to be so good. Now it's so not. Alright. So that's to prepare the defense. Roche is up. No, it's not. It will be up pretty soon, though. It's up now, yeah. Which would be a win for the whichever team can get it, really. But the Dire team can't take it easily because they're pressured, whereas the Radiant team, oh boy, this is scary. It's really hard for the Dire team to initiate. Like their skill is in pushing and counter initiating, right? So let's say an ideal fight, for instance, for the Dire team consists of the Radiant team messing up an RP by only getting like a Shadow Demon, or getting somebody and then Shadow Demon disrupts them, or getting like an Underlord who's hard to kill, or getting like a BKB Luna, something like that. And then they lose the fight on account of that, because what happens is they commit their ult, or they initiate with Ursa or Centaur, and then you get the counter initiation with Fatal Bonds, which is particularly good against this team, which has 3 melee heroes and a Necro and a Witch Doctor who are both low range. And then the Fatal Bonds plus Balrogs and all the other stuff from the Dire that's really good counter initiation comes off. Warlock also has just picked up Ags. I would personally, so what I would do this game is I would probably go Ghost Scepter right after this item, after these items rather, just or Blink Dagger. Ghost Scepter I think of in particular because all of the times well, not all of them, but many of the times he dies, it's because of Ursa just blinking on him in the backlines and killing him. So there are 2 ways to approach that. You either get a Ghost Scepter, which means he can't attack you, and he's just gonna have to waste time walking around, or he's going to have to, what's it called? Or what you can do is you can get a Force Staff or a Blink Dagger and just count on fast reaction times. And when he blinks on you, you Force Staff yourself up a hill, or you blink away, stuff like that. So I think Ghost Scepter is the like easier play, I suppose, and the harder play is Blink. The other thing with Blink Dagger is that when he's trying to kill you on the back lines, does he have a Shadow Blade now, or does an Ninja's Rune? Okay, it's just an Ninja's. If he had a Shadow Blade, that would be sick, actually. I would have done a Shadow Blade in this build. Yeah, like I would have gone Silver Edge instead of MKB, I think. Actually, I probably would have done Silver Edge instead of BKB, but that's just because I'm greedy and I don't like building BKBs. Yeah, so the other play on any high priority hero is just to build a Blink Dagger, and like let's say you're sieging this high ground. Your team is going to be sieging from here. Shadow Demon's going to be like over here making illusions of Luna. And then you can like keep Warlock all the way back like over here hidden in the trees. And then the Radiant team, when they try to go on you, either they RP your family or your family. Yeah, they RP your team, and then you get killed. And then while they get RP'd, you blink over, and then you pop Balrogs and you pop etc. And that's probably the way to do it, I think. Okay, all right. Again, being down 1 Rax is demoralizing, but it's really not the end of the world by any means. Like, it's not a huge problem. Magnus is doing a good deal of damage too with Echo Saber Daedalus. That's something to be scared of. And he has a ton of money. What's gonna go next? Like maybe a heart, just for like raw damage and HP, make him super hard to kill. Because the Dire team is very like death by 1,000 cuts, right? Whereas the Radiant team is very bursty. It's like, okay, we either get the RP or we don't. And then, even if they don't, they just disengage with Stampede, I suppose. But it's kind of... the Dire team doesn't burst people as well, right? Like, they have an Ember Spirit. Like, fundamentally, Ember Spirit does not burst people for the life of him. All he does is not burst people. Alright, so they're coming up. Let's see. What's their plan? I mean, Ursa does have Aegis, I suppose, actually. I really like Shadow Demon against Ursa. Okay, so this is perfect. Fatal Bonds on 4. Fatal Bonds coming in with Balrog. This is the ideal fight, right? This is like the perfect execution fight, right? Like Ursa is just like he made the stupid play and just walked up here because he's like, oh, I have an Aegis, let's go. But that doesn't tend to work out so great. So that was perfect, right? We saw a good example of the counter initiation. While the Radiant team didn't really initiate in the sense that they didn't have a proper initiation, they committed a lot to being aggressive, and then the Dire team punished that. And that's exactly what you want to do whether you're a Warlock or an Underlord or even an Ember Spirit, right? Ember Spirit, he's an aggressive hero in the early game, and he's an aggressive hero against squishy people. But against a team like this with Centaur, Necrophos, Magnus, and Ursa, and even Witch Doctor, he cannot be aggressive against these kind of 5-man things. And we saw a couple of fights where we lost because the Ember Spirit, or at least in part lost, because the Ember Spirit would make the aggressive play and try to like remnant in as though it's 20 minutes when it's actually 30 and people have more items that are tanky. Luna's taking this with her hero, unfortunately. A nice blink cancel. We need to pay attention so that we don't get mag ulted. Really, they should be taking this tier 3 and then leaving. Maybe leaving illusions. Mag is coming on the sidelines. He does not have RP up because of the... Well, he is RP, but he does not have his blink dagger up. It's very hard to blink in when you have Luna Gaze bouncing everywhere. So Ursa's about to res. They should not stay for this. You know. Normally, generally what oh boy, he got. That is going to be a problem. Okay, so they got a Rax, and all they did was lose an Ursa. I mean, excuse me, they lost a Luna, which is fine. They could have just left. Like, they could have just said, okay, we're not going to get that range Rax right now, and then walked away, and then Underlord ulted. But they didn't, so, like, that's a misplay, but it's one of those misplays where it's like, yeah, it's a misplay, but it's at the end of a string of good events, so it's not the end of the world by any means. So that was good overall. I think that was a really good play from the Warlock. He's going to have double Golem fairly soon. And by fairly soon, I mean in like 10 minutes. But, well, maybe not 10 minutes. Maybe like 8 minutes. He is about to be 18 too, which is going to be a big deal. Ember Spirit getting caught out. That's unfortunate. I guess he just didn't have a safety remnant. Or he got RP'd. He couldn't have been RP'd. He got something'd. I don't know. Okay, so they're going to try to commit for this. I mean, they have pretty good chances. Like, this is a good time to make a play, right? The Luna's dead for 15, which means you could probably take at least a Rax. Granted, creeps are very far behind them, so by the time creeps get there, they're probably going to be, okay. Uh-oh, SD. Ember Spirit buyback. Fatal Bonds on 4 again, which is how they won last fight. We have some decent damage coming out from both teams on cores. Ember Spirit just died back, which is going to be a huge problem. Necrophos wasted his ult, which that comes in handy, it turns out. So they distracted them, so instead of taking Raxes, they killed them, which is something. Warlock, you got a bit too in the fight. If we remember, you were staying like over here, and then you just got murdered by an Ursa. Really, you should have been staying here. Like, if you think of your towers as like your defensive line, and you are significantly you're significantly less defended when you're when you're in front of your defensive line, right? And all in all, of course, like, it was a 3 for 3. Granted, there was a dieback on Ember Spirit, which is bad, but they did not lose Raxes. And, I mean, that's really all you can ask for in a lot of these situations. I don't particularly know if they push here. I mean, they could just send illusions. They could just send illusions down at this range Rax, and, like, the Radiant team, do they have... No, they don't have Glyph. Like, they could just kill this real quick. They're not going to. Instead, Magnus is going to make a play. Wow, they kill this guy really quick, and he's going to be dead for 103. Oh, boy, blue. Things are not going great for our friend. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, that's just like a low. There, you have to weigh your gains versus your losses, right? If you just took a fight and you say, okay, well, we can push because Ursa's going to be dead for 30 seconds. Well, you're starting your push against megas or not megas against super creeps, and you're running down mid and like, yeah, maybe you get a range rax out of it. Like that. That's like the most they could have possibly gotten was a range rax. The math just isn't there, right? Like it's just not enough to warrant that kind of play. I assume Ember's next item is going to be Octarine Core. That's kind of what people do nowadays. Um, yeah, I mean, that that's what I think the item is. I mean, of course, yeah, no, that's what the item is. I'm trying to think of alternatives, and none of the alternatives I like, really. Scotty's coming out on Ursa in the next, however long. I still like. Excuse me, all this talking is killing me. It's hard to play Ursa without an Abyssal, in my opinion. Like I feel like he should have gone maybe Abyssal in the sixth slot, and then like late game you replace Vlad's with like either Ags or Satanic or Shadow. Like Silver Edge is just so good, man. And this Aki is still turned off. Luna, turn your Aki on, bro. It bothers me so much. I see this all the time. Because, like, it's like one of those things where people learn, like, oh boy, it's the good thing to do is to turn your Aki off. That way you don't push the lane. But that's only good if you realize that when you turn your Aki on, you push the lane better. Who just BKB'd? They just Chinese BKB'd. Okay, Magnus went AC, which is going to be a problem. The Dire team does not have a tremendous amount of armor. Like, of course, Luna has good armor because of all the Agi. Okay, it just Yules immediately. Oh, did they? No, they didn't use RP. Okay, that's good. They're getting damage out, but they're just going to disengage on this. They will kill Necrophos at least. This is stopping all the BKBs. Man, these people are so freaking tanky, dude. This will stop. I guess Fatal Bonds doesn't stop Blinks. Uh-oh, okay, so this fight is kind of good for their Dire, right? Because we're talking about how they win these AoE fights and they lose these skirmishy fights, and they don't have vision for this guy. So, does he have a Shadow Blade or a Glimmer Cape? Yeah, he's a Shadow Blade. That was perfect. Like that's how you win a fight if you're the Dire team, right? We talked about it, and that's exactly how we've won the last couple fights, right? You have an AoE controlled team. You win when you AoE control, and you lose when you don't. And let's see if they can actually parlay this into serious material now. They shouldn't be chasing this guy. This is such a waste. You take your pushing hero and you push. You don't take your pushing hero and then chase. Also, it's a Witch Doctor. Who cares about Witch Doctor, dude? So the play here is to push down mid. Once you get creeps in mid, you go bottom. Don't go bottom now because it has backdoor protection. But go bottom when you can. That's a good ward. I like that ward spot. Okay. Ursa buys back. This is fine. Now you leave. They've used 2 buybacks. They have RP. You know this. When they have RP, you don't stand still. I mean, you don't stand with your pals. Okay. Okay, this was not a good ult by MiniNinja, but it does secure the Raxes. Kind of a zoning play, basically. Typical Luna strat. They should have left, but it's a Luna, so they took a lane of Rax. They're way overcommitting now. Like, I mean, I'm a cautious player, but this is just like a classic case of like you guys are gonna get got real quick. Okay, but Underlord makes everything okay. They did not get RP'd, which is like some miracle thanks to Luna and the zoning ult from Mini. Honestly, like I made fun of it at first, but. And I assume it wasn't the intention was not to zone ult, but it worked out. I mean, it was fine. I mean, you stunned like 1 person. It's something. All in all, it turned out well. I think I really do. I think it's hard to play a teamfight hero without mobility. Even like I mean, traditionally, obviously the best examples are like Tidehunter or Magnus. right? Because they're team fight heroes who build blink because they're low range. But even long range team fighters like Warlock, if you had that blink, that turns a one-person ult into like a four-person ult, right? It's fairly easy to execute, so to speak. This BKB is low, but Luna, he's fine. He'll escape. Okay, so the Radiant team is making the classic mistake of their fighting. They're overcommitting. They do have the ult RP rather on 2. Luna gets way too close in. That being said, they have 4 dead from the Radiant team. Again, they do not have what's it called? So just the stuff. They don't have dust or a gem, and now they don't have anything else because they're going to suffer the plight of things. So the play here is for Luna to buy back, and then you guys TP heroes bottom, and then you take. Oh man, then you just take Throne. Honestly, you don't even take this because this tier 2 is still up. He did. Okay, he bought back. All right, let's see what the play is. You don't buy back and then do nothing. Okay, so he's doing the play that I said. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Yeah, actually, I mean, the better play would have been to all gather with Underlord and have Underlord TP you guys there. That way you can boots your way out. Alright, good. Yeah, they're just going to take Throne. Perfect. Yep, good game. Luna. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say Luna. You could do this with any number of heroes. This is perfect, right? You take a fight. They had just bought back. You know they don't have buybacks. You just take Throne. You don't try to get megas. You just Throne them. So this is perfect. Honestly, this was a good game, I think. A very back and forth game, which is nice. I really do think this is just a case in point of knowing how your team comp works and how your team comp doesn't work, right? Their team comp obviously worked in the sense that they were an AoE team fight comp that had the ability to just take Raxes or take Thrones after winning fights. And what we saw was we lost fights when we overplayed our hand and only had 2 heroes up, or had already used our ults, or we tried to make aggressive moves. What they won on was when the enemy team would make an aggressive move, and then they would retaliate and control them and CC them and wreck them. And obviously, once the Ursa's BKB got lower, things got a lot easier. I think this will be the score screen, just in case anybody's interested. So yeah, things went well, all in all. I mean, obviously, like we had some random hiccups here and there, but once we kind of knew what parameters we had for how to win fights, how to lose fights, that was the thing. I would say, looking back, the laning phase went okay, but that was definitely something that I'm glad we went over, because both teams could have won their lanes decisively, but neither team did, if that makes sense. And dealing with a tanky aggro duo, which ended up being an aggro try once the Witch Doctor rotated, is something that you learn through experience, I suppose, would be the way to do it. Like, aggro tries are very confusing and confounding to deal with, but once you've dealt with them a few times, it gets markedly easier. Anyway, as my throat cracks from talking too much, that's the replay review. So thanks for submitting, thanks for being a patron, and I look forward to getting more replays out in the coming days, because they've piled up, and it's incredibly annoying to do these without being able to click on heroes, but I'm going to suffer through, and these have actually started to come out fine. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully we all learned something. Bye-bye.